social responsibility or CSR is considered by the new Marxist left to be a self-defeating oxymoron. In this chapter, the new Marxist challenge to CSR as a meaningful, coherent concept and practice is discussed. Marxism is a social, political, and economic theory originated by Karl Marx that focuses on the struggle between capitalists and the working class. Marx wrote that the power relationship between capitalists and workers were inherently exploitative and would inevitably create class conflict. He believed that this conflict would ultimately lead to a revolution in which the working class would overthrow the capitalist class and seize control of the economy. New Marxist thinking on CSR. A defining trait in recent Marxist thinking and critique of corporate social responsibility is that the concept is a complete non-starter. Such profound skepticism about CSR is seen in Fleming and Jones' self-reflective comment on the title of the recent book, The End of Corporate Social Responsibility, Crisis and Critique. The perceived inherent oxymoronic and self-defeating nature of CSR, that is the new Marxist-inspired critique, has gathered more adherents in the wake of the financial crisis. It might seem as if business ethics designed for legitimating the role of business in society is not well equipped for engaging a public suffering from the devastating effects of the crisis. However, ordinary people as consumers become skeptical about CSR due to events beyond the financial crisis. In the spectacular media coverage of scandals such as Shell's controversial operation in the Niger Delta and Nike's use of sweet shop labor in their supply chain. According to Schamer 2008, recent Marxist thinking on CSR is not primarily concerned with the victims of exploitation or they are implicit to the approach. Rather, the theoretical focus is directed towards how capitalism works, how business corporation and business people take advantage of the tendency towards responsibilization in society at large. According to F. Jabalow, a key feature of capitalism is its ability to assimilate criticism. This ability is considered as a management decision to assimilate resistance by investing in criticism. As long as criticism of capitalism can be aligned with continuing profit-seeking activity, the longevity of the system is secured. Chapuleau's argument that CSR represents a reconciling third way between capitalism and critique is indicated in 4 dimensions of critique: the social, the conservative, the artistic, and the ecological. Where Chapuleau remains at the structural level of explaining the functioning of the capitalist system in regards to CSR, Zizek targets the hidden motives of capitalists engaged in being socially responsible. Zizek implies the critique of ideology by revealing the hidden class interests of liberals who adhere to corporate social responsibility. Zizek's approach works at 2 levels in the critique of CSR. At one level, he reveals the personal hypocrisy of nice liberals. At the second level, he reveals naturalized ideological capitalism. In Siderstro and Marinito's reading of Zizek, there are 3 distinct beliefs held by the liberal communists. These 3 positions or beliefs encapsulate Zizek's somewhat scattered comments on CSR and therefore provide a good starting point for a more systematic overview. According to Zizek, Gates is an example of a liberal communist, since he combines the hypocritical view that one can be engaged in philanthropy in his battle against malaria using wealth created by exploiting working people. According to Sudarstro and Marinito, the new corporate environmentalism is another example of frictionless capitalism. When multinational corporations proactively engage in drafting environmental regulation, they primarily do so because they want to safeguard their business interests and less because of a genuine interest in the environment, regardless of how positive the impression might be. The second belief held by the liberal communists is that all problems are of a practical nature, and hence best solved by a corporate engagement. This is the sort of pragmatism that overlooks the political economic context in which social problems like poverty are embedded.
Cool capitalism. Capitalism can be cool and human. A cool capitalist believes that hierarchies, authority, and centralized bureaucracy should be replaced by the dynamic structures, a nomadic lifestyle, and a flexible spirits. Sidestrom and Marinito talk about hipster capitalism. Hipster capitalism, any aspects of culture or a social life can be brought into or molded in market relations where it can be bought and sold. Example of hipster capitalism is tattooing. It is came about because those trained in fine arts could make a living from tattooing rather than wait for the vagaries of the market to reward them. The Marxist-inspired criticism offered by Capello and Zizek are examples of critique of ideology applied to CSR. It gives the impression that the entire agenda of CSR is corrupt and it can be defeated. The criticism is aimed at both the structural level of the economy as well as the micro level of personal intentions. Hence, CSR exemplifies what Adorno called a sticking plaster on the wound of capitalist exploitation, as well as being covered up for personal hypocrisy and greed.
If Marxists are concerned about capitalist exploitation in upstream supply chain, Irish Marian Young's social connection model is a welcome contribution. Young operates within current liberal political theory, particularly the Rawlsian theory of justice. In particular, she is inspired by how Thomas Pogge has argued for transposing the issue of justice beyond the nation-state to the global level of the society. According to Rawls, the site of justice is the nation-state, because her citizens find themselves reciprocally related, whereas this is not the case beyond the nation-state. Well-off citizens might owe a certain level of humanitarian assistance to poor people in far-off countries, but they do not own any sort of justice to them. Thomas Pogge has argued that the basic structure of global trade, international law, and institutions together qualify for the sort of reciprocity between people that rules would admit qualifies for raising claims of justice.
Political CSR and the vacuum of global governance. They have suggested political CSR as an umbrella concept for understanding how business corporations are embedded in and cooperate with political institutions, in particular at a global level. The post-national constellation leads to challenges for businesses operating in a global environment and has far-reaching implications for theorizing on CSR. Business firms operate under conditions of increased competitions as the protecting shield of closed borders has begun to disintegrate and the state monopolies have been replaced by liberalized and deregulated markets. Many corporations are under pressure to cut costs and increase profitability as their investors demand high returns.